Did you file your taxes and then realize you missed a big deduction, claimed the wrong filing status, or forgot to include some income? The good news is you can fix it, and today we're going to show you exactly how to use Form 1040-X to amend a previous tax return and potentially get a refund you're owed. Let's start with the reasons people need to amend. The most common is discovering a missed deduction. Maybe you forgot to include mortgage interest, a charitable contribution, or a business expense. Another big one is choosing the wrong filing status, for example, filing as single when you qualified as head of household, which has a higher standard deduction. Some people need to amend because they received a corrected tax form after they already filed, like a corrected 1099 or K-1. Others need to add a dependent they forgot to claim, or correct an error in income reporting. And some people amend to reduce income they reported incorrectly as taxable when it actually wasn't. Now here's the most important rule with amendments: the deadline. The IRS gives you 3 years from the original due date of the return, not the filing date, the due date, to file an amended return and claim a refund. So for the 2022 tax year return, which was originally due April 15, 2023, the 3-year deadline to amend and claim a refund would be April 15, 2026. There's also a separate 2-year rule: if you paid your tax late, meaning you owed money and paid it after April 15, you have 2 years from the date you paid the tax, whichever is later. If you miss both of these windows, the IRS will process your amendment but will not issue a refund. Form 1040-X is structured around 3 columns. Column A is where you enter the amounts exactly as they appeared on your original return. Column B is the net change, the amount you're adding or subtracting. Column C is the corrected amount, that's column A plus or minus column B. The IRS uses this 3-column approach so they can see exactly what changed and why. The form also has an area called Part 3, Explanation of Changes, where you must write a clear, plain language explanation of every item you're changing and why you're changing it. This explanation is critical. Vague or missing explanations are the #1 cause of amendment processing delays. When you file Form 1040-X, you need to attach supporting documentation for any changes you're making. If you're adding a deduction you missed, attach the relevant forms or receipts. If you're changing income because of a corrected 1099, attach the corrected 1099. If you're adding a schedule you forgot, like a Schedule A for itemized deductions or a Schedule C for business income, attach that complete schedule. You do not need to include schedules that didn't change from your original return. And importantly, you should not submit a new complete Form 1040, only Form 1040-X with the supporting attachments. Now let's talk about how to file Form 1040-X. For tax years 2020 and later, you can generally e-file Form 1040-X through most major tax software providers. E-filing is faster and more reliable, the IRS recommends it. For older tax years, you typically must mail a paper copy to the IRS. The mailing address depends on your state, and you can find it in the 1040-X instructions on the IRS website. If you're amending to claim a refund, never send your original refund check with the amendment. Cash or deposit the original refund as normal, then separately await the refund from the amendment. The refund timeline for amended returns is one of the most common frustrations taxpayers have. If you e-file, the IRS typically processes amendments in about 3 weeks. If you mail your Form 1040-X, the realistic timeline is 16 to 20 weeks from the date they receive it, and this can stretch even longer during busy processing periods. You can check your amendment status online using the IRS tool called Where's My Amended Return, which is available at irs.gov. You'll need to enter your social security number, date of birth, and zip code. The status is usually available about 3 weeks after you mail your amendment. What if your amendment shows that you owe more tax than you originally paid? You should pay the additional amount as soon as possible because the IRS charges interest on unpaid tax from the original due date of the return. The interest rate is the federal short-term rate plus 3 percentage points, compounded daily. So the longer you wait to amend and pay, the more interest accumulates. There's no penalty for simply amending to pay more as long as the additional tax is paid promptly, the failure to pay penalty generally only applies if the IRS contacts you first about unpaid taxes. One thing many people don't realize, if you amend your federal return, you may also need to amend your state tax return. Most states require a state amendment within a certain period after a federal amendment, often 90 days. The state amendment process varies by state, but it usually involves a form similar to 1040-X specific to your state. Check your state's Department of Revenue website for the correct form and process. If your federal amendment changes your federal AGI, it almost certainly affects your state taxable income as well. Let's recap the key rules. You have 3 years from the original due date, or 2 years from paying the tax if that's later, to file an amendment and get a refund. Use Form 1040-X, fill in all 3 columns, attach supporting documents, and write a clear explanation in Part 3. E-file if possible for faster processing. If you owe more, pay it right away to minimize interest. And don't forget to check whether your state also needs an amended return. If you think you might be owed money from a prior year return, don't wait, the 3-year deadline is firm and you can't go back once it passes. If this video helped you, please like it and subscribe to Everyday Wealth Guide for more practical tax tips every week.